Hello, I'm Alistair Dryber. I'm the author of Pricing Genius, Getting Paid Properly for Ideas and Advice in the Era of AI. And this video is specifically about pricing of AI-driven consulting or creative services. Now, there's been a lot of talk and a lot of concern about this, and there's a real issue here because if you are still operating an hourly or a daily billing model, billing hours or days, then if you start using AI to do some of the work, you're going to be billing fewer hours, fewer days, and you'll be charging less at the same time as you need to recover your investment in developing and learning how to use your AI. So it's clearly an issue if you're operating a daily or an hourly billing model. The good news is none of the issues involved are new. They've all been around for a while. They are more urgent now, but they're not new. And the second piece of good news is if you look in areas of business adjacent to consulting or creative, then these problems have already been solved in ways that offer us some very interesting clues as to how to address them in our sector. So to explain this, I'll start off with a little thought experiment, strange question I used to ask people. When I started doing this a few years ago, I thought it was science fiction, but well, things have really moved on. So I would ask people, imagine this, for the last few years you have had an AI follow you around at work, observe everything you do, and it's now learnt to do everything that you can do. It can interview people, it can gather and analyse data, it can even produce convincing deep fakes of you to appear on video calls. So now, when you get a project brief, all you need to do is upload the brief into the AI, press start, and you can head for the beach. So, as I said, science fiction when I invented the question, now less so. The point of the little experiment was, though, how would you then charge for your work? Because on the one hand, it's costing you very, very little to do it because it's all being done by technology. On the other hand, you've made a very large investment in developing this technology. So you have to recover that somehow. And if you're operating an hourly or a daily billing system, you just can't do that. Clearly, the solution has to be some variety of value-based pricing. So value-based pricing moves from something which was always a good idea, if you could make it work, to absolutely essential. And that doesn't change. AI just accentuates an issue that was already there. The other piece of good news is some people have already solved this problem. In fact, they solved it decades ago. Because the issue you've got fundamentally is how do you price something where you've spent a huge amount of time and money developing it and you can now serve an additional customer at almost no cost? That's what you've done with your AI consulting firm or creative agency. You've made a large investment so you can now do individual projects at very low cost. That's not unique. The software industry, for instance, to take a very obvious example, has been doing this for decades. I had a client who would charge its customers $1 million just for sending a copy of a CD. Because on that software, on that CD, was software that had taken, I would estimate 100 developer years to produce. Cost my client, I don't know, $20 or $30 to make a CD and send it, but they could charge $1 million because of the work they'd already done. And they had a pricing scheme which recognised that. It bore no relation to the cost of actually sending that CD. Another example, you can look outside software into the world of online information. I remember a conversation I had with someone who had a very large patent database. They had an inquiry from one of their biggest customers, one of the global pharmaceutical companies, saying, we really like your information, but we're not keen on the user interface. Could you build us a customized user interface that looks like this? And they said, yes, we could. And they went away to their IT people who said, it'll probably take 12 days. okay, 12 days, they quoted the client $1 million. And the client was happy to pay because they had large numbers of very highly paid researchers in very expensive facilities doing very high value work. Anything that made those researchers more effective was a very, very good investment. So you can see in those sectors, software, online information, this problem of how do you price AI consulting and creative services has already been solved. Those analogues exist. We don't need to start from scratch. And as I say, there are no new issues. They're the issues that there have always been. They've just become a lot more urgent. So, if you're feeling that urgency and you want to start doing something about it, I would recommend, well, of course I would, wouldn't I? But I would recommend the book. You can find it on Amazon, but if you message me, reply to the email that had the link for this video, or contact me through LinkedIn, I'll very happily send you a link where you can download a copy at no charge.